The banh mi is the ultimate culinary map of a nation's resilience. Born from the collision of colonial occupation and the ingenuity of the Vietnamese spirit. To understand this sandwich is to understand a history of adaptation, where a rigid French import was dismantled and rebuilt into something entirely and uniquely Vietnamese. In the mid-19th century, the French arrived in Vietnam, bringing with them the symbols of their culture, including the baguette. At the time, the baguette was a luxury item, a dense, crusty loaf made from expensive imported wheat. For the French colonizers, it was a taste of home. For the Vietnamese, it was an alien object, too hard and too dry for local palates accustomed to the delicate, nuanced textures of rice-based cuisine. But as the colonial era took hold, the baguette began to permeate the local landscape. The transformation began in the kitchens of Vietnamese bakers who were tasked with producing these loaves. They realized that the traditional French recipe was not just expensive, but ill-suited for the humid, tropical climate of Southeast Asia. Through experimentation, they began to incorporate rice flour into the dough. This was a stroke of genius. The addition of rice flour fundamentally altered the chemistry of the bread. It created a loaf with a thin, shatteringly crisp crust and an interior that was light, airy, and remarkably soft. This was no longer a French baguette. It was a new creation, one that could be produced locally, affordably, and with a texture that perfectly complemented the bold flavors of Vietnamese street food. By the mid-20th century, as the French colonial presence waned and eventually ended, the Vietnamese people reclaimed the bread. They took this hybrid loaf and stripped away the European expectations of how it should be eaten. In France, a baguette was often served with butter and jam or simple cold cuts. In Vietnam, it became a canvas for a complex, layered flavor profile that balanced the 5 fundamental tastes: salty, sweet, sour, bitter, and spicy. The architecture of a classic banh mi is a study in contrast. The base is usually a smear of rich, savory pâté and creamy mayonnaise, a nod to the French influence. But from there, the sandwich pivots sharply toward indigenous ingredients. You have the crunch of pickled carrots and daikon, which provide a bright, acidic counterpoint to the richness of the meats. You have the cooling, herbaceous punch of fresh cilantro and cucumber. And then, there is the protein. Whether it is succulent, slow-roasted pork belly, grilled chicken, or the iconic chow lua, a steamed, seasoned pork sausage wrapped in banana leaves. The meat is always seasoned with fish sauce, soy, or aromatics like lemongrass and chili. This evolution turned the sandwich into the perfect street food. It was portable, inexpensive, and designed to be eaten on the go, reflecting the fast-paced, vibrant nature of Vietnamese urban life. It wasn't just a meal. It was a democratization of flavor. Vendors in Hanoi, Saigon, and every town in between began to develop their own regional signatures. In some places, you might find it topped with a fried egg or a dash of spicy chili sauce. In others, it might be stuffed with sardines or head cheese. These variations were not just about personal preference. They were about what was available in the local market, showing how the banh mi acted as a mirror for the geography and economy of the region. As the Vietnamese diaspora spread across the globe in the latter half of the 20th century, the banh mi traveled with them. It arrived in cities like Paris, Sydney, and Los Angeles, often served out of small, family-run shops that became anchors for immigrant communities. For many, the sandwich was a bridge between the past and the present, a way to maintain a connection to home while navigating a new world. Over time, the rest of the world caught on. What was once a humble street snack became a global phenomenon, appearing on the menus of high-end fusion restaurants and in the hands of food critics who marveled at the complexity packed into a single, humble loaf. Today, the banh mi stands as a testimony